So on the Spank Spoon, the first thing you gotta do is pry off this end cap, which reveals the retainer nut that allows the axle to come out. This just pries out with a screwdriver. And then there's the retainer nut. This cover has a little O-ring seal on it, as you can see. That's all that holds it in, is that O-ring. Got the 8mm Allen in the axle, the crank side of the pedal, and then an 8mm socket for the other side. You can just, with 3 hands, you can hold the camera and then loosen that nut. I'm using my leg. Okay, we'll take that nut all the way off, and then we can pull the axle. The axle retainer nut removed, and with a little bit of force, we can pull the axle out. So this end of the axle, the small end of the axle, runs in a bearing, and that bearing is visible just inside the outboard side of the pedal. The crank side of the pedal runs in a bushing, and you can see this pedal shaft is kind of you know, pitted and worn and very dry. We'll clean it up, we'll put some grease on it, put it back together. We're just trying to get this bike pedaling smooth again. But it might be time for a rebuild kit here. So I cleaned up the axle shaft. I just used a little 400 wet dry paper and some WD-40 to polish it down. It's pretty hammered and it's completely dry. There's no grease on it whatsoever. The bushing inside the pedal is like a plastic bushing, and it's kind of stained up with rust. But even with even just cleaning it up, it spins much more freely now. I'm going to put a little bit of bushing grease on it, just regular suspension bushing grease, and reassemble it and do the other side. I'm not sure how tight this is supposed to be, so I just tightened it until there was no play axially, and it spins nice and freely. I'm gonna put the dust seal back in on this side, and I'm just gonna tap that back in. Okay, good. Let's do the next one. Nice. Okay, next one. Alright, so you can see it's pretty easy to take these apart. Pop off that end cap, take off that retainer nut, yank the axle out, clean it all up, don't lose the washer, grease it, put it back together, tighten that axle nut just enough so the pedal doesn't have any end play, put in that dust seal, and you're good to go.